You've announced this new government emergency alerts text service today. Should we be worried? It's a little concerning that you want people to be alerted of things going on, and this is a new development for the UK. What's behind it?
Well, this has been a long time in the making, and this is just another tool in the toolkit to warn citizens when there is a very serious risk, basically a risk to life and limb. So we're going to have a test of this in a month's time, and everyone will receive it. It lasts about 10 seconds, but then after that, I hope that none of your viewers will hear for a long time, if ever at all, from it. But the sort of scenario they might hear it in is, for example, if a river bursts its banks and your home is at risk of being inundated and you're at risk of life, then you'll receive this message. It'll be very targeted, down to a ward level, and it's another way of communicating what you need to do to keep yourself safe.
Is there anything particularly that's prompted it, though, Minister? So obviously we know that there's a war going on in Ukraine. Is it because of the Russian nuclear threat? Is it because of terrorism? I appreciate it's going to start giving weather alerts, but is there something that's precipitated this move?
No, this broadly aligns us with other similar countries, so the United States, Japan, Netherlands and elsewhere use exactly the same thing. It's certainly not in response to the situation in Ukraine. It's something that we've been developing for some time. Indeed, the first trials we undertook of it were before the crisis in Ukraine began.
Let's just move on to politics. There's a big day coming up on Wednesday. Let's start with the Windsor framework first of all. How damaging will it be to Rishi Sunak if the DUP and indeed a caucus of Brexiteer Tories do not support the deal that he's struck with Brussels?
Well, I very much hope both the DUP and a wide range of Conservative MPs will back it. I think they have every reason to back it. First of all, we achieved what many people thought was impossible. We got the EU to renegotiate a treaty. And secondly, we've ensured that there are no substantive barriers between mainland Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's a good deal and it helps get Brexit done. So I hope it will command that support, but ultimately it's up to members of Parliament as always to make their own decisions.
And do you think that Boris Johnson is going to command the support of his peers? I wondered what you make, having been his party chairman for many years, of this idea of giving MPs a free vote on his future in politics. Is that a fair way to handle things? Shouldn't Tories be a little bit more supportive of their former prime ministers?
Well, first of all, having worked with Boris for many years in different capacities, I'm quite sure that he will put forward a very robust defence of his case when he appears before the committee on Wednesday. Ultimately, this is a procedure of the House of Commons, and it's always been the case in these sort of things. It's up to individual members to make up their own minds. So first of all, it will be for the committee to make a determination, and if that necessitates it going to the floor of the House, it will be up to each individual MP to make up their mind. As I say, I think he'll make a robust defence. We are following the usual precedent, though, in saying that this is a matter for the House of Commons.
But you'll obviously have a vote. You've already heard his defence. I mean, we've had reams of newspaper coverage about it already. Will you vote in his favour?
Well, I'm going to listen to the defence that Boris makes, but I don't think it's appropriate for me as a government minister to start commenting on something that is for the House of Commons. It's the usual precedent that ministers don't comment on things that are a matter for the House of Commons. So I don't want to breach that, but as I say, having known Boris for many years, I'm quite sure he'll put forward a robust defence. And
are you happy with the way that this has all been carried out? There's been talk of it being a witch hunt. There's been some coverage of the fact that Harriet Harman and others on the committee have already voiced quite negative sentiments about Boris Johnson. There's somebody else who I think at the weekend was likening it to the McCarthy trials. Are you happy that this isn't a total stitch-up?
Well, I think I have to respect the House of Commons procedures. It is a cross-party committee, including Conservative members of Parliament on that committee, and ultimately it will come to, if they make a determination that necessitates it coming to the floor of the House of Commons, it will be for members of the House of Commons to decide. And I think I'm duty-bound as a government minister to respect the independence of the House of Commons to make its own determinations and not to give that commentary. I know that Boris has his arguments to make, strong case to make, and he will make that case to the committee.
I know you've got a very wide-reaching brief at the Cabinet Office and that you've been involved in some of the coronation planning. Have you received your own invitation, and how many MPs do we think are going to attend the ceremony on May the 6th?
Well, I think the convention is, which I think will be followed again, that cabinet ministers do attend the coronation. So I would hope to be, and I think I have been invited in that capacity as a cabinet minister. Sadly, there won't be as many seats available in Westminster Abbey as previously, so it won't be the case that a large number of either members of Parliament or members of the well, both members of Parliament, but MPs in the Commons or members of the House of Lords will be attending, and there'll be a wide range of representatives from across the public there as well. And of course many international leaders, because of course King Charles is not just King Charles of the United Kingdom, he's also King Charles of Canada, Australia and many other realms as well. So there'll be a wide international representation there as well.
Would you like to see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex attend the ceremony?
Oh, I think that's a matter for His Majesty the King to make a determination about that. I don't think it would be helpful for a government minister to comment on that.
Well dodged. You've obviously come out with this diktat about the governmental phone use of TikTok. Are you angry with Grant Shapps that he's continuing to use TikTok in his own personal phone?
Well, in the end, that's up to Grant Shapps, and I was very clear in the statement that I made to the House of Commons, I think on Thursday, that the reason why I'm doing this is in relation to government devices. Those are devices that have sensitive government information on them, and given the vast amounts of data that's harvested, not just by TikTok, but by many other social media apps, and in addition, the risks around the ownership of TikTok, given that it's ultimately owned by a Chinese company, which is subject to Chinese national security laws, I immediately took steps to ban TikTok from government devices, and have taken some further steps in respect of other apps. Basically, we will analyse them and make sure that they are secure to be used on government devices. But in respect of your personal phone, Grant Shapps is like any of your viewers or anyone else. They need to make their own decisions about what's appropriate for them, bearing in mind the amount of information that can be gathered by any social media app. And in addition to that, I should say that Grant will also have received government security briefing when he became a minister about how he uses his personal phone sensitively.
But it does undermine the government policy a bit, doesn't it? I mean, he's posted this sort of extraordinary clip from the Wolf of Wall Street film, basically saying that he's not going to let go of this app. So it makes the government's manoeuvres perhaps look slightly weak in the face of his own personal preferences. I mean, he's a senior minister.
No, look, I discussed this with Grant around the time. He's perfectly entitled to use his personal phone. What the announcement I made was in respect of government devices, and I think on balance it is appropriate to ban TikTok for the factors that I outlined to you.
Mr. Dowden, surely there's lots of
how they use their devices, and that applies to Grant.
But surely there's lots of personal information on his phone. Either we're worried about the threat from the Chinese via TikTok, or we're not.
Well, the concern that I sought to address through the announcement I made was in respect of sensitive government information. Remember, sensitive government information should only be handled on government communication devices. In respect of his personal device, or indeed any member of Parliament or anyone in a position of public authority, they need to think carefully about how they use it, and ministers like Grant Shapps will have received briefing about how to carefully handle their own personal devices, and he'll be acting in accordance with that.